be called. Having said that, it is, of course, not too difficult to postulate that it would have an effect on the ongoing consideration of amnesty for the crisis we have with respect to the Boko Haram challenge. The truth of it is that one way or the other we have a crisis on our hands. In resolving that crisis, all options should be on the table, and I think that is the intention of the government in considering this amnesty option. But notwithstanding that, the problem in Baga may not necessarily be that of Boko Haram alone. And that was why I took time to put in context the historical perspective to the challenge with security in that area. So you have a scenario in which, owing to several decades of crisis, you have proliferation of arms in the wrong hands in that area that has threatened the security and well-being of Nigerians and other citizens of the world in those communities. So that is what the Multinational Joint Task Force is there to deal with, as far as I know. And if, in the course of executing that mandate, they now have the complexity of adding on the Boko Haram challenge, without a shadow of doubt, there will be some impact, but I have no doubt that all of these things can be resolved holistically.
You know, yesterday, I think we had people who complained about the casualty figure, even though some would say, let's leave the casualty figure and talk about the professional way in which that onslaught or the crisis was handled. They say the casualty figure is enormous because we don't have professionals who went into that particular village, Baga town, for that operation. What would you say happened in a scenario where we had more casualties from the civilian population than should I say, the militants?
Okay, again, it's important that we get a few things straight. I do not question the right of anybody to complain about casualty figures, except that in matters of this nature, I think it is extremely dangerous to just work with speculation and to work with information sometimes pulled out of nothing by persons and interests who wish to project their own interest and agenda. First, to present it the way it has been presented from what your question has put to me, is to disrespect the enormous sacrifice that not just the Nigerian military, but our entire national security community has made to secure the relative stability and security that we enjoy. And that, I think, we must all condemn. If we get to a situation in which, for whatever reasons, we begin to disrespect the sacrifice of our men and women in and out of uniform, who labor in all kinds of adverse conditions to provide us security and protection, I think that is really, really unfortunate. The first imperative in any society, we both agree, is order. Even in heaven, the first imperative is order. And governments exist, first of all, to maintain that order. Pursuant to that mandate, governments maintain armed forces and other elements of force so that where necessary, these elements of national power can be employed to maintain order for the good or generality of the people of the society. Invariably, my understanding from media accounts of what has happened, both from the media accounts, from other sources, and from what the military authorities have put out, is that there was a confrontation between security forces, military forces, and elements of insurgents in that community. Now, you have to understand that militants or insurgents do not wear uniform. At least in this case, they were not wearing uniform. So to all intents and purposes, to the undiscerning eye, you will view them as civilians. But the truth of it is that if a man is not wearing uniform and is carrying weapons and firing on members of the armed forces and other security elements who are exercising a legitimate duty on behalf of the Nigerian state and citizenry, that person's attack on even a single policeman or soldier is an attack on all of us. And that is the message that we must get out. And I am glad that following the comments and reactions, even on the internet, contrary to the impression being created in some segments of the media, the vast majority of Nigerians are actually pleased and in support of the mission of the military.
All right, let me jump in there.
That is important because the military exercises this mandate as a result of our collective will as a people, through our legitimate authorities. And it is important that we line up behind the people that we send out to do battle on our behalf, to do battle by proxy for us. So let us not focus on the wrong things here and emphasize the wrong things. The loss of lives in any situation is regrettable. But to say that it is because of lack of professionalism on the part of the Nigerian military, anybody who says that with due respect is either ignorant and deeply ignorant or very mischievous. And that's other reasons for pursuing that. The Nigerian military that I know, that I served in, remains one of the most professional forces you can find anywhere in the world. And there is nowhere in the world where anyone will call to doubt or second guess the professionalism of Nigerian forces.
Well, speaking about Nigerian forces,
in situations of this nature, in conflicts of an asymmetric nature like this, collateral damages are sometimes inevitable because you have a scenario in which insurgents hide within civilian population to attack the military. And people have often talked about the rules of engagement. Well, to make it clear, the rules of engagement globally allow the man who bears arms under legitimate authority to return fire when his life or the lives of the persons or property is protected, is in danger. And the conditions in which they may use lethal force is well prescribed. I think the important thing to do at this point is to await the outcome of the investigation. And by the way, even without the investigation directed by the President, Commander-in-Chief, I think it should be reassuring to everybody that the military, as a matter of routine protocol, has ways of reviewing these actions, and this after actions review produce appropriate sanctions if certain individuals.
All right, Lancelot, let's get this question in. If you can hear me, what can you tell us about reports making the rounds yesterday that soldiers invade Azuzoma community in Bayelsa State? Is that correct?
Please? No. I'm not aware that soldiers invaded any community in... I think sometimes the use of language, people should be careful. These things were reported in the media, in some segments of the media, and I think we need to make the point that as a society, as stakeholders in the society, whether we are in or out of the media, we have a very important duty to preserve the stability and order of society. Because unless we have a society, there will be no society for you to aspire to govern for those who are projecting political interest. And if you have another kind of interest, unless we have a society that is stable and peaceful, you have nothing to aspire or agitate for. Having said that, how is it possible that Nigerian soldiers will invade a community in Nigeria? It's not possible. I think we need to put out the message more often that this is the people's army. This is a legitimate instrument of national power. We know what happened in that community. 12 policemen on official duty were killed in cold blood. They were murdered. And to expect that authorities will sit and do nothing about it is an invitation to anarchy. I don't know if we want to live in that kind of condition, where anybody can wake up and kill his neighbor and go free. We have laws in this land, and without prejudice to anyone's preferred code, creed, or ideology, those laws are meant to preserve the good and well-being of all of us and must be enforced. And when our fellow citizens will make the sacrifice to put on uniform, go out in difficult conditions across different terrain to execute that mandate on our behalf